Welcome to the Better Business, Better Life show. I'm your podcast host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. In this podcast, I interview business owners, EOS implementers, and business experts who share with you their experiences, tips, and tools to help you create not only a better business, but also a better life. At the end of each show, you will have 3 tips or tools that our guests share that you can implement immediately into your life. If you want more information or want to get in contact, you can visit my website, debra.coach. That's DEBRA.coach. Please enjoy the show. And today I am joined by Mike Capuzzi, who's here from Pennsylvania over in the US. And Mike has got a really interesting background. He's a publisher, he's an author and a book publishing coach. And he's been helping clients create exceptional marketing results since 1998. He's actually an author of about 19 books himself, including 2 Amazon #1 bestsellers, which is the 100-page book and the magic of short books. And he's now the founder of Bite Size Book, which is a whole new publishing concept formula for creating short, helpful books known as shooks. So shooks are kind of ideal for business owners, entrepreneurs, corporate leaders who are looking to increase a level of authority while also providing helpful information in bite-sized books. So if you've ever wanted to share it or write and share a non-fiction book but weren't sure how to do it, you're going to love what Mike has to share today. So that's the bio for Mike. Welcome to the show, Mike. Lovely to have you here. Sorry, go, yeah.
No, I was going to say thank you, Deborah.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. What I found really interesting is Mike is actually an engineer by trade, so has come from a completely different background. And I just had a quick chat with him before the show to find out, what really is a shook. And what I've learned is that it is, short bite-sized pieces of information, but it's actually just one of those books you can read in about an hour. And it gives you really valuable information. But from a business owner's point of view, it also follows a formula to help you lead somebody down a direct response kind of mechanism. So that's what I've learned in the last few minutes. So Mike, welcome to the show. Great to have you here.
Again, Deborah, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Oh, absolutely great. Hey, so tell us a little bit about how does somebody who's an engineer go from being an engineer, and I assume you worked in engineering for a while, into marketing books of all things?
Yeah, it's, like most entrepreneurial paths, it's not this straight line. But yeah, I engineering degree and did that at a small engineering company for a number of years here in Pennsylvania. And then this is back in the early 1990s, I answered a classified ad in our local newspaper for a small software company that was engineering software related. Got the job, and Deborah, that was sort of one of the trajectory, just took me off in a new direction. That little company, which was a technical development house, so all they did was coding, someone else did the sales and marketing. Well, they had to assume the sales and marketing role after a couple of years of being there. So they actually sent a little email out back in the day and said, "Hey, does anyone want to start this marketing department with us? And anybody have an interest?" I raised my hand, and ever since then, traveled the world. Never got to New Zealand. I almost got to Australia, but I got married instead. My wife wouldn't. The scheduled trip was to Australia, and it was when I was getting married. But traveled the world, spoke, met a lot of folks, and just a really cool ride. But I always had an entrepreneurial streak. So at the height of the .com bubble in the late 90s, I went off on my own and started my own consulting company.
Wow, fantastic. By the way, it's never too late to come to New Zealand, and I'm sure your wife would love it as well.
It would definitely be a bucket list.
Yeah. And look, I've got to be honest, I've obviously spent 10 years living in Australia myself. So I have a British passport, I have an Australian passport, I have a New Zealand passport. And New Zealand is very, very different to Australia. So it's definitely worthwhile making the visit. Okay, so you had this entrepreneurial streak. You decided it was time to do something about it. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I just, always wanted to work for myself. I didn't play the corporate game very well. That little software company got very large. And when I left, I was employed in 57 when I joined it. When I left, they had thousands of employees.
Wow.
It got that big that fast. And, it wasn't, once it started getting big, it wasn't sort of my cup of tea. But, went off, always wanted to go off and do my own thing. Was never that interested, and maybe in hindsight it was a mistake, was never that interested in building a big or small, multi-employee company. There's 4 of us now in this little company, and lean and mean. I know what the theme of your podcast is, and I really believe that's a philosophy I believe in. The business is really meant to be a tool for me and I didn't want it to become an all-consuming big kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
intentionally small, but I love it, and hard to believe we're 25, 26 years into this.
Oh, wow, I didn't realize that. That's fantastic. Okay. And so, in terms of just before we get into the whole concept of a shook, let's have a little bit of an exploration about your journey. So you went from being a one-man band, now you've got 4 people that you work with, and it's been 25, 26 years. Tell us a little bit about, you talked about being non-lineal. I think that business growth is also non-lineal. Tell us a little bit about that journey to get to where you are now.
Yeah, I mean, dabbled in different things, so different focuses. I tend to get bored, typical entrepreneur. So when you run a small kind of lean ship, like a speedboat, if you will, it's easy to sort of change and try different things. So we've been publishing, even though we published our first client book in 2008, we never really focused a lot of energy on it. It wasn't until 2018 where we went 100% behind nonfiction book publishing for business owners. Mm-hmm. And I've done a lot of things over the years. I used to host a bunch of events. I used to host a monthly in-person event for business owners to come visit. So I've done a lot of different things over the years. And at this phase of my life, what we're doing now it's the most fun and the most enjoyable for me. So, yeah.
And I think it takes a bit of time sometimes to find that, doesn't it? So we were saying before we've gone on the podcast, I'm a biochemist by trade, and I never really enjoyed biochemistry. It was just one of those things that my parents thought I should do. And now I'm now 53. I think I've now actually found what I really truly love doing. I'm here on a weekend because I love coming in and talking and meeting with people. I love the work that I do throughout the week. And I really do feel like I've found my true niche and my why, and it just makes life so much easier. But it does take a while to get there, right? Because sometimes you have to try things and work out what works and what doesn't work.
And you're people change, right? Their desires, I see young people now. I'm even older than you are, Deborah, and I see young folks, and I admire them, how hungry they are, and been there, done that, right? I'm not saying I'm ready to retire, but I'm also not ready to burn up the world and do all the stuff I used to do. So it's definitely an evolution, and I think that is. I try to encourage my daughters. I've got 2 college-age daughters. I try to encourage them to really think about that, the decisions you make right now things are going to evolve, and you need to be open to that evolution.
I think nothing's set in stone. I think business is the same too. It's like, that's why we have to review things every 90 days and kind of go, hey, what's working, what's not working, what should we be changing? Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about shooks. So I described my version of a shook, but I'd love to hear how you describe it, and who should write one.
Yeah. So a little marketing lesson here. I think you'll appreciate it. Obviously, most of us as business owners have some sort of competition. So there's a ton of people that help people publish books, for example. There's a ton of marketing consultants, coaches, et cetera. So it's always something I advise our clients. I've taught it for years with other things I've done, is you want to find that unique value promise, the unique selling proposition. You've heard all these different things. How do you describe what you do uniquely? So we came up with what we believe is a unique formula for these short 1-hour read books. And much like here in the States, Deborah, there's a McDonald's and there's a Burger King, and they both sell hamburgers, but one's got the Big Mac, one's got the Whopper. A shook, a short, helpful book, is our brand of books. So we're the only one that publishes shooks. And, it was just a way to differentiate us. I'd say 9 out of 10 people love the concept. And then there's that always one person like, oh, why would you come up with a stupid word like that? But it is our brand of short, helpful book that follows a very specific, as you mentioned, direct response formula.
And so who should write one? I mean, it's great having this idea, but why?
Right. I could make the case, Deborah, even though we haven't done it, I could make the case that just about any business owner, any entrepreneur, or any corporate leader ought to have a short, helpful book working for them, including like a restaurateur, a pizza shop owner. I really believe it. I think there is an opportunity there. We haven't worked with a pizza shop owner yet, but we only do nonfiction books that are meant to be sales tools, really, these little books that we create. And we're only helping probably 2/3 of our clients, Deborah, are what we call local business owners, your local physician, your local dentist, your local insurance agent, for example, chiropractor. And then about a third of our clients are folks like you and I that have a worldwide audience and more of a global reach.
Okay. And so I'm trying to get my head around how a dentist or someone like that actually writes a book and what the book would be about.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, we have several dentist clients.
Okay.
Matter of fact, our most recent book, which just went live this week, is from an orthopedic.
Orthopedic surgeon.
Yes.
Wow.
I can't get it out.
No, that's okay. I shattered my pelvis a few years ago, actually many years ago now on a horse, shattered my pelvis and broke a couple of ribs, and so I had an orthopedic surgeon. And I must admit they are, they're truly specialized in terms of what they do. So what on earth do they write about?
His book is about osteoporosis.
Ah, okay.
Right? And his natural path of helping people suffering from osteoporosis. Mm-hmm. So it's a short, I'm looking at it. We just published, in the last week or so. And, but dentists, here's a very interesting story, Debra. So we've done several dentist books. We always, again, advise, just like I was telling about the shooks and coming up with what we call your special sauce. Like, what do you do that's different? One of our original clients, who happened to be a long-term client of ours, so it was very natural for him to start working with us to publish a book. He is more of a natural-oriented dentist. So he doesn't use fluoride. He doesn't use mercury, which is a lot of, most dentists do. Yep. Very homeopathic type of dentist. And he wrote a short book. It's called Are Your Teeth Toxic? And if his belief was, and I read the book and worked with him, and I believe it too, that those silver amalgams that are in your teeth that a lot of dentists still put in are dangerous to your health because of the mercury. So his book was called Are Your Teeth Toxic? And in it, he made a very good case why he believes anyone who has a silver amalgam in their mouth should have it removed. Wow. So that's how one dentist used a short, helpful book.
Okay, so it's all about it's marketing 101, right? So finding out what your special sauce is and then writing a book that kind of positions you in terms of being the expert in that special sauce.
Right. And these books, Debra, really, just for the listener, I mean, again, these aren't meant to be New York Times bestsellers. These are sales tools. They are essentially business cards on steroids, if you will. Yeah. I don't want to diminish it by making it sound like a business card, but it's meant to be a sales tool that you give away. You don't try to sell these, and you give them away online, offline to ideal prospects, and that in turn can really help you create some really nice client flow, customer flow.
Perfect. And that's what I was thinking. It's like a business card, but with a whole lot of useful information for the reader, so that they get some value from it. But it's introducing them to you. And I suppose a little bit like I always thought that videos were really great, because if you put videos out into the marketplace and people watch them, I get people who've never met me before, but when they actually meet me for the first time, they go, "Oh, I feel like I know you," because they've actually seen that. I'm guessing the Shook has the same kind of concept, is that when they've read that, they feel like they've got a sense of who you are, what you do, why they might want.
And that's really one of the biggest benefits. We always say a Shook is a 1-hour conversation with you and the reader. And you should write like you talk. You should share stories. These aren't meant to be sterile, type books. Brochures. They're meant to be conversation starters.
Ah, excellent. Okay. And so, how do you even get started? I mean, like, if somebody's sitting here and listening to this podcast and going, "That sounds like a great idea, but I've got nothing interesting to say, or I don't know what I would say in a book." Because I must admit, I'm sitting here personally. I'm 53 years old. I think for the last 20 years, I've been thinking about writing a book. I haven't because I just don't know where to start. I don't know. I sometimes wonder, what do I really have to offer? And then I kind of go, "But hey, you put content out all the time. There's lots of stuff that you have to offer. I just don't know where to start." So, what would you say to people who are sitting here going, "I've got no clue"?
Yeah. And it's like, I never hear that. I hear that all the time, Debra. And it's a fair thing. I had it, my head trash 15, whatever it was, 20 years ago before I wrote my first book. Like, who am I to write a book? 19 books later. So I always say, if you help people, which most business owners and entrepreneurs do, if you're helping people with something, whether it's achieving a goal, fixing a problem, whatever it might be, then there's a high probability you can and ought to write a book, a short book. And again, remember, these are highly focused. So you're not trying to teach the entire thing that you do. You slice and dice it and write multiple shows. I know people can see the video, right? If they're watching, right?
Yes.
So for example, Debra, you'll appreciate this. This is an elder law attorney here in Pennsylvania. She could have written one big book on Alzheimer's and dementia disease and how it affects you and how, as a, what you need to do from a legal standpoint, et cetera, as you're proceeding, your family member or even you are proceeding through that. But instead of writing one big book, she sliced and diced it into 3 different books. And these are, again, smaller books. So it allows her, to market differently. She can market each book individually because each one has a unique focus. Mm-hmm. But it also makes it more readable, more manageable. And if a book is more likely to be read, then there's a higher probability that the reader may in turn do what you ask them in the book, which is ultimately to become a customer, client, patient, etc.
Perfect. Hey, for those who can't see the video, just the book that I kind of mentioned to Mike that I always put, it comes to mind for me, is the Who Moved My Cheese book. It's that kind of size book where it's a beautiful, quick, short, sharp read, has a really strong message, but it's that sort of size. I'm really curious because obviously there are lots of self-publishing options out there. And so, people could go, well, I'm just going to go and write my own book, self-publish it. What are the biggest mistakes people make when they do self-publishing?
Yeah, great question. I would say the first thing they don't do, Debra, is they really don't think about their goals. Like, what are they really trying to achieve? If you're trying to become a New York Times bestseller and world-renowned expert, you're going to write a different type of book than a short, helpful book, probably. Mm-hmm. You're going to want to get a media agent. You're going to just, work with a traditional publisher. But for a lot of folks, they just want to be what I call 5 Mile famous. They just want to be the dentist in their town that is known for whatever procedure, or the insurance agent, for example. Mm-hmm. So you want to get over this idea that I'm trying to write this amazing book. Yes, it's going to be a good book. It's going to be a helpful book, but it's going to be a book about what you do, what your specialty is. Should be focused. And in our program, every one of our clients works directly with me. So we're brainstorming, Debra. And I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is they don't think about their goals. They think they have to, come up with this amazing book that's got to be, 400 pages, et cetera. And I think there really are alternatives out there that they should at least consider. For many first-time authors, a short book is a great way because you're going to make a mistake. You're going to learn. My first book, gosh, wish I knew now what I knew. Know now what I knew then, or other way around. Yeah. Wish I knew then what I know now. But being able to get something done quickly and get it out there working for you, learn from the mistakes, I think coming up with something like a shorter book is a better strategy.
Yeah. And it comes back to sort of marketing 101, doesn't it? In terms of, I think a lot of people, they get caught up in this all, you should, you ought to, you need to do, and they haven't really thought about why they're doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And why they're doing it, who they're doing it for, what kind of results, what outcomes they want from it. So I'm guessing your team helps them work through that in terms of thinking about, who is it for, what outcome do you want, what's the message?
Absolutely. That's the meat and potatoes before we even start. There's several weeks of work before we, and our total process is about 8 to 12 weeks, but several of the early on weeks are just totally, brainstorming, coming up with ideas, who we trying to attract. I will also say, Debra, right from the get-go, books are very powerful. I mean, most experts have a book. Most, celebrities. I mean, we all, there's reasons why thought leaders tend to be book authors. But it's really key, Debra, that I want to stress this. Writing a book and using it in your marketing is a long-term game. So if you think you're going to create this book and then maybe put a couple of weeks of marketing behind it and it's going to change the world, chances are probably not. It's a long-term thing. I always say you want to be consistent, persistent with your use, because a well-written book can last years and produce results for years if done right.
And I think that's actually really interesting because I know that a lot of people kind of think that with a lot of things actually, so I'll just put it a website, I build a website, I'll put it out there and all these people actually come to it. No, they're not going to. Yeah. You've got to have some reason to do that. And I think people think with books that, it's all about becoming the number one bestseller. Really, for most people, that's not the ultimate goal, right?
No, it's not.
So in terms of making money from these short, helpful books, it's not about selling the book. So it's not, because I think, again, people think, I'm going to publish a book and it's going to be all of my expertise all crammed to this one book and I'm going to sell it and retire in the Caribbean somewhere. But that's probably not going to happen for most people who write books. But these particularly are not designed for that. So how do you make money out of writing that kind of book?
Yeah. Again, great question. And yeah, that hasn't happened to me yet either. But again, it's a different effort. Like if
Yes.
you're going to try that kind of book, it's a different effort,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very expensive effort, but because you need a pretty big team. But the way our authors make money with our short, helpful books is they are connecting their products and services, whatever it might be, to the book. So the book is about something they do, how they help their clients, patients, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's guiding those interested readers. It's not 100%. None of our clients have hit 100% where every reader becomes a client or customer, but you're trying to encourage those readers that get it to take what we call that next step. And that next step is typically, working with you in some capacity. That's where you make your money. So for example, that dentist I was sharing with earlier, the holistic natural dentist, he used his book very strategically. He would put it, out in his community, place it where other folks that are very interested in healthy oral health,
Mm-hmm.
yoga studios, natural food stores, gyms. He would put free copies of his book for people to take. And within the first month of doing that, Deborah, he got 3 patients that he wouldn't have gotten otherwise, just because his book was out there.
Yeah.
It resonated and it connected the dots to him and his practice.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's another really key point is like with any marketing, you have to invest in it. You have to be consistent. You have to, it's not just a short, sharp, just put it out there and everybody will come. It's more about who else can you partner with? Where else can you get that information out there? All those sort of things. So what kind of costs are typically involved? Not so much when working with you, I'll come back to that shortly, but more in terms of producing a book. Like what does a book cost these days to print?
Yeah, it's not, it's more than a business card,
Yep.
but less than a lot of things. So on average for our books, Deborah, about 100 pages, there's somewhere between $3 and $5. It depends on quantity and all that, but you're spending about, once the book is done and you need to print them up, you're spending somewhere between $3 and $5 a book.
Okay, that seems very reasonable. Okay, and so then tell us a little bit about the process. So, I decide I want to write a short, helpful book, and I come to your team. What does that look like?
Yep. So as I mentioned earlier, I work with every one of our clients. It's a lot of brainstorming, a lot of Zoom meetings. We have a very, that engineer brain of mine has developed a very unique, systematic way of taking, the book creation process step by step. So we take them through a very systematic process, brainstorm. Now, most of our clients, Deborah, we encourage this, they write their own content. So we do offer ghostwriting for the CEO who doesn't have the time, for example, which is typically the case. We are, and I know I've listened to some of your past episodes, we are looking at leveraging AI now as an alternative, not as in the content creation so much, but more in the outlining and planning and coming up with good ideas for a book.
Yep.
But there's some pretty cool stuff we're doing with AI too.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm really fascinated and scared by AI. I think I'm a technology geek, so I love the opportunity that it offers.
Yeah.
But I was just talking to a guest yesterday about some of the real challenges around, fake stuff and potential opportunities for scams and things. But yeah, it's amazing. I mean, we use it in the business, and just I don't think it's ever going to replace humans, but if it can take away a lot of the legwork that we have to do, the research, I think even just starting with a non-blank page, because I am the worst. If I have to start from a blank page, I just sit there for hours, kind of almost procrastinating and worrying about, well, how do I start? And then you put something, I mean, I know ChatGPT is not all of AI, but if you use ChatGPT, you can pop something in there. It gives you something. You go, oh yeah, that's really great, but now I'm going to change this and this. And by the time you've finished, it's nothing like what AI started with, but hey, it got me started. So I like using it as that prompter, if you like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what is it doing in the publishing world? What can AI do in terms of because I hear you've got a very systematic, proven process. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I haven't even kept abreast of everything, but in the book publishing world, obviously outlining and planning for the book, I guess there's still opportunities for people who want to, quote, use AI to write the book.
Yep.
I'm not necessarily that fan. I believe it's more of a partnership, if you will, versus replacing you. audiobooks, there's going to be a way to put it's out there now where you can use your own voice to now narrate your books. One of the cool things, and I heard one of your past episodes talking about this, but we're working with an AI developer now where essentially you can let's say I could upload a couple of my books into this system and it trains the AI to be like a Mike Capuzzi chat GPT, if you will. Yeah. So it's using the content I've written in my books, but then building a knowledge base that, sounds like Mike, is based on Mike's philosophies and teachings. So that to me that's where I'm very excited about AI, is like, how can I train it to, sound like me,
be like you.
And know the way I approach things. I haven't thought about all the bad things that can be done yet, but right now I think it's kind of cool that we can train it and use it as a tool.
It was interesting. The guest yesterday was talking about the fact that, it can actually, not only can you use it to feed all the stuff that you've written so that it becomes a chat bot with your feelings and the way that you talk, but you can actually now even program it to use your voice, which means you could literally be creating mass messages, but personalized messages, and almost have people can have conversations with you, but you're not actually there, which is, it's really interesting, but also quite frightening.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Okay, cool. So I want to ask now, in terms of, I always ask my guests to give our listeners sort of 3 top tips or tools. What are the 3 things that you would give to listeners if they're, maybe thinking about writing a book, even thinking, because one of your things is you've gone from being an employee into being an entrepreneur. So if it's something you've learned on that journey you'd like to share, just 3 things they can walk away with and hopefully do something with.
Yeah, I think the first thing is get any head trash out of there. Like, I can't write a book. I'm not smart enough. I'm not a good enough writer. All right. I just think that so many books that ought to be written, and other content too, Deborah, doesn't get written because people, really are their own worst enemy. So get that out of your mind. There's enough opportunities. There's enough ways and systems and, philosophies on how to do a book that you can figure one out. And, if you're helping people and you want to continue to help people in different ways, a book can be a great way. So get the head trash out. I would say another thing that I don't know how much, I'm sure, my guess is you probably do this too. I would say spend more, especially if you're in the planning of a book, for example, spend more quiet time, not on a gadget, not on Chat GPT. That has its time and moments, but just quiet time where you're really letting your brain just kind of think, what do I want to do here? Who am I looking to serve? Just so I call it quiet, creative thinking time. I think that's an underutilized strategy that most of hard-charging entrepreneurs just don't give themselves the time to do that, just to be quiet. And think.
We call it a clarity break, and it really is very much about, I bought myself a Remarkable specifically for this reason, because I do love technology, but if I have anything that pops up with, you've got a notification, that's it, I'm completely off and distracted. And so the Remarkable gives me the opportunity to write on a notepad, and I just literally take that somewhere into nature, away from everything else, turn everything off. And even if you don't have any questions to ask of yourself, just forcing yourself to sit there silently with a blank piece of paper can be really helpful. But even better if you can seed it and go, actually, okay, what do I want to achieve? How, ask yourself some meaningful questions and just get it out of your head, see what comes out. You'd be quite surprised.
Yep.
Perfect.
Absolutely. And then I think that was 2. The third one, actually, if you like what we've talked about, I'm going to share at the end. I've written a book called The Magic of Short Books, Deborah, which outlines in great detail our formula. It's on Amazon. I'm going to give your listeners a chance to read it for free, but it's a recipe for a short, helpful book. I would definitely encourage people to at least check it out and see if that kind of book could work for you.
Fantastic. Okay, so you're going to give us a link to that in a moment. So what kind of people do you enjoy working with? Like, what's your favorite client look like?
That's another great question. The ones I work with, I love working with, and you sound like you would even be like, I love people that get marketing, that love marketing, right? And that are always looking at marketing, both old school marketing, like direct response. It doesn't just have to be digital, but copywriting, all that stuff. I just love students of marketing because, as you and I both know, marketing is, the lifeblood of any business, the kind of stuff that you and I talk about. So I think a marketing-oriented business owner, and then just someone who's just passionate about helping before selling. And that's what a book does, right? A book helps before it sells, at least a shook should. And I think there's a whole philosophy there about trying to help people before you even worry about money exchange. So those are the people they tend to be more forward thinking and longer term vision. And I like that kind of person.
Perfect. And so if they wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do that, Mike?
Yeah. Well, my main site's mikecapuzzi.com. Our publishing business is Bite-Sized Books with a D, bitesizedbooks.com. And Debra, I have a podcast. I'm almost 4 years old, and it's called The Author Factor. So authorfactor.com. And I interview nonfiction book authors just to hear and share their stories and challenges of how they finally wrote that first book. And then I do have a gift for your listeners.
Yes,
I can
link.
share
Yes,
that.
please do go
And
ahead.
I know only certain people can see it, but here's 3 of our short books. I mentioned The Magic of Short Books. That's a great little book. There's The Magic of Working Together. And then The Magic of Gratitude is a little gift book I put together. All 3 of those, Debra, they're in digital format. You can read them online. If you go to mikecapuzzi.com/magic, it's a hidden link. Just let me know you heard me on Debra's podcast. We'll email you links for all 3 of those shooks.
Oh, that is wonderful. Hey, thank you so much. I think it's a really great idea. And I think the first thing is probably the biggest thing for me is like, get that head trash out there. Just do it. I know that I'm very fortunate. I've been creating content for a long time. But it was difficult when you started because it's like, what do I have to say? I remember when I was first asked to be a business mentor and I said to them, but I don't understand what I have to offer. And they went, hold on a second, Debra, you've run businesses your entire life. You've had successes, you've had failures, you've got a huge amount to offer. It's like, okay. And then once I started doing it, I realized how much I loved it. And I think the same with content. I think we have this stuff going on in our head that's like, well, what do I have that is important or helpful? But you'd be surprised. I mean, sometimes you share things that you know, which means you think everybody knows it, and yet they don't. And so you share it. And I'm always quite surprised by some of the things you can share, and people go, that was amazing. That really changed something for me. So get out of that head trash, get on with it, get yourself writing a book. And if you need some help, talk to Mike and the team. I think they'd be great to work with.
Debra, thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure to talk to you. It's been really fun. I look forward to keeping in contact, and please do come to New Zealand. I think I'm trying to convince all my podcast guests that they need to come here. And I share a little story because I came to Dallas back in January in February for our EOS conference. And I was they have like a bus that goes from Dallas airport out to where I was, or from the airport to where we were actually holding the conference. And I was on the bus and somebody said to me, where are you from? I said, I'm from Auckland. They're like, oh, wow, that's New Zealand. It's a beautiful place. I'd really love to go there. And I said to them, look, she said it's a long way to go. And I said, if I can come here for a 1.5-day conference, I'm pretty certain you can come to New Zealand for a 2 to 3 week holiday. So that's my kind of desperate plea to people is please do come visit New Zealand. I know it's a long way away, but it seriously is one of the best countries in the world.
Yeah. It's definitely on the bucket list. Trust me.
Excellent. Hey, look, Mike, thank you so much for your time on a Friday afternoon. You enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I look forward to staying in contact.
Debra, thank you very much.
Thank you.